From the land down under, with the rock at its centre, comes the little Aussie Watchman. Australia is about to go into a postal vote, a countrywide survey on whether we as a nation should accept gay marriage. On the face of it, the very idea that this concept should be considered within a post-Christian Western nation is testimony to the fact that our country is following the moral abyss trailblazed by empires past, such as the late great Roman Empire. All empires end, they say, and the Western Empire will be no exception by the sounds of it, as it distances itself from the fundamental beliefs and principles that indeed made it great and a prosperous civilization. The ruling Australian Liberal Party have taken the Pontius Pilate option, as he pondered the judgement upon Jesus Christ. Not wanting the blood judgment upon himself, he allowed the people to decide their own fate. He washed his hands in front of the multitude. "I am innocent of the blood of the just person. You see to it," he said. And all the people answered and said, "His blood be on us and on our children." And so it was. In 70 AD, Jerusalem was destroyed and the Jews were scattered. And so shall it be again. The people will be deciding whether Australia has gay marriage, and therefore the people will also decide upon its own judgment. In principle, I am so much happier that the people will be doing it, and not our parliamentarians. As we close upon the 12th of September, the date chosen for the postal vote, there are more and more arguments pro and con. One of the most intriguing are those who hold to the Christian view of marriage, but may vote for gay marriage. The first argument, the word marriage does not matter, they say. The argument is that we already distinguish between what the world considers marriage and what the church does. So why does it matter what it means to people outside the church? This argument lacks a critical understanding of God's judgment upon the nations. Once a sin is legally sanctioned by a nation, its judgment becomes greater. The second one, same-sex marriage not only exists now, but they are legally every bit as equal as a heterosexual married couple, including the right to have children. The ship has sailed far past, they say. However, just because the state already accepts sin, does not mean that the church should sit back and let society run over it with its overwhelming immorality. The church is salt and light and needs to continue to stand up against the moral degradation of our society. The struggle doesn't just cease because the enemy is winning. The third, the church has no role in defining what the state accepts as marriage. This is a separation of church and state issue, they claim. However, the Australian Constitution does not have a separation of church and state clause for starters. And yes, given that the church is part of the community of peoples, it does have a role in influencing what the state decides. That is the whole point of a democracy, that all people, including those within the church, have a right to determine the future of Australian principles and laws. The fourth, the argument is that if same-sex couples are married, then they and their children will be less likely to be stigmatised and commit suicide, etc. Unfortunately, we have the experience of European countries that tell us that the suicide rate amongst same-sex couples is just the same whether they are married or not. The statistics are not available for children just yet, but the large studies in the US are quite definitive that the children of same-sex marriage unions have significantly more health and emotional problems. Whether this will change if their parents are married is yet to be determined, but it is likely to not change given the experience in Europe with married gay couples. The fifth argument, same-sex marriage is inevitable given the increasing percentage of atheists within Australia, so why fight it and create bad blood? Once again, the witness of truth and a godly view of marriage shouldn't be hampered by political correctness. Just because Stephen knew he was going to be stoned to death didn't stop him praising the glories of God. Just because nothing is inevitable, and a nation can reverse its direction, despite it being quite rare. Look at Nineveh, for example. Great tragedies can turn a nation back to God. My advice, don't ever give up fighting for the truth. Our fate will be intertwined with our nation. Don't let it make decisions that will open the doors of judgment upon our nation. Fight for our fellow countrymen who are unaware of the consequences of their decision.